Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast, West Denver. Here's a quick message from our sponsor, Local Works Wheat Ridge, provided by its Executive Director, Paige Piper.
Local Works is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to make Wheat Ridge a more vibrant and sustainable place to live and work. Our mission and action is programming that provides neighborhood revitalization and small business support, keeping and growing the businesses we know and love in Wheat Ridge. In simpler form, we provide connection. Connection to business, connection to community.
This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Meg Smith.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Good Neighbor Podcast of West Denver. Today, I'm here with Tim Burnham of UMortgage. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Hey, Meg. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for spending some time with me today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yay! So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and UMortgage and kind of how you ended up into this mortgage industry.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in Colorado a little over 11 years. I grew up in New Hampshire originally, did 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, and then moved here after that in 2013. Went to CU Denver and got a finance degree, and then went straight into mortgages after I graduated in 2017. So I've been doing that, for 7 years now. And I've been at UMortgage since right around November 1st. I kind of moved around a bit last year, trying to find where I wanted to land after being at the same company for quite a while. So I've done many things in the mortgage industry, but primarily my focus over the last 5 years or so has been working with veterans like myself on the VA loan. It's not all that we do, but that's the main thing that we seek out.
Yeah, well, and it has a lot of intricacies to it, so it's important to have specialists
for sure.
That area.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It has this reputation for being like complicated or needlessly complicated, but I think that comes down more to there being some nuances that give it that perception maybe unfairly.
Okay, good. So it's a little easier than we'd think.
Easier than people realize, but it's okay because then I can make a living out of making people aware of it.
Helping people. Yeah, but you also with anything financial, you take comfort in having an expert guide you because there's so much that you don't know that you don't know.
Dude, those unknown unknowns are what get people. For sure. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you found your niche and that it is, something you're passionate about because you're a veteran too.
That's right. Yeah. I'm happy I found it too. So thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about, why people might choose to work through you and UMortgage versus some of the other, alternatives out there.
So I think that the main reason why people are going to come and work with us is because of the experience that we bring to the table. So there's a lot of places that you can go for a VA loan. Like most banks and lending institutions are going to offer them. However, that doesn't mean that they spend a lot of time playing in that sandbox. And that is the main thing that not only me, but my whole branch is working at. So my boss actually, he's the head of the military lending division at UMortgage. His name is Pat Engade. He is actually the number one producer of VA loans in the United States.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, we've got like just huge amount of resources and knowledge. And you really see that like when people are at even other big names in the VA industry and they come to us for a second opinion and they're kind of shocked at how many things their previous lenders might not have known or covered with them. So yeah, we often end up in a situation where it feels like we're telling people things that they should have been told previously, but as long as they're getting that information eventually.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, we want to make sure that we have all the information when we're doing something as important as a mortgage. It's like the biggest thing ever financially.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to empower people with knowledge, make them feel like they're making an informed choice.
Yeah. Well, and that's a pretty good calling card, being the biggest producer of VA loans in the country.
Yeah. I like to say he's the biggest VA loan producer in the known universe.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me about any challenges you've experienced in your industry, things that you've had to overcome and potentially that improved your, service.
So I'd imagine a lot of people probably tell you that COVID was a big hurdle for them, but for me actually, and for a lot of people in my industry, it was the opposite in many ways.
Mhm.
As we know, mortgage rates kind of hit bottom.
That's true.
They
Yeah.
went lower than we've ever seen historically, and so if you were around to take advantage of that and you could handle the workload, then that was actually a very, very busy time. However, the pendulum swung the other way a couple years later, and we saw a big downturn in our industry, a lot of people leaving the industry. And so that's been interesting. I personally have gone through a lot of changes in that time since. The biggest challenge for me was um, like right after COVID, kind of early 2021, I had gone into a management role
Mm.
and had taken my foot off the gas on production, focused on training up newer loan officers and trying to get them, experienced and going out there and selling. But then after doing that for a couple of years, I went back to doing my own production last year and doing that in a very different market and in a much more challenging one was tough. Last year was definitely a lot of finding my footing and also um, in a lot of ways felt like going back to basics because I had taken my foot off the gas for so long on getting my name out there. And you don't realize just how much of an impact that has. But the when you're not doing things to stay top of mind, you very, very quickly fall out of that space for people.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and that's what our team does for, our day job. Is keeping people, in front of the folks that they want to be connected to. So you are speaking my truth.
Love it. I'm in the right place.
Yeah. So, do you guys have any news? I mean, there's always like legislative changes and interest rate changes. And what's new right now in the mortgage industry or the VA loan space specifically that people should know about?
So, some of the biggest news in the last few months has been this big lawsuit, the NAR lawsuit, as we refer to it, which I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically, there was a lawsuit around the way that real estate broker commissions are paid. And the big fear that a lot of people have had with that is what is this going to do for buyers as they seek to purchase properties and they're wanting to be represented because it's going to change the way that buyers agents are compensated. Or if I guess it'd be more accurate to say it's going to make it more transparent. And so, as far as that relates to VA loans, that has been maybe a point of contention because in a VA loan, the buyer is not allowed to pay any kind of broker fees. And so there's been some fear that that might put veterans in a bad position because if there's no, like for example, if it's not negotiated that the seller is paying the buyer's agent, paying their commission through the sale proceeds, and the buyer can't pay that agent, then will they be able to get good representation? Because I'm a firm believer every buyer should have excellent representation, somebody
Yeah.
advocating for them. And so that's kind of been one of the bigger issues. And then as far as rates go, I mean, we know rates have been up for a few years now. And, the word on the street for a few years has been, rate reductions right around the corner. It's going to get back to a more normal range, but that hasn't happened yet. So we're told to expect a few rate reductions later this year, and those don't always move one to one with mortgage rates, but
Uh-huh.
usually one follows the other. So hopefully we see that. But in any case, people always need to buy, and that is our focus. We're primarily focused on purchases. So
Hmm.
um, whatever the rate situation is, doesn't stop people's need to go out and buy a house.
Yeah. Now, when you were saying you were focused mostly on home purchases, there's also the whole refi situation when the rates do change. And does the VA loan process allow for that, just like any mortgage?
It's actually a little better. So,
Cool.
let me give some background there. So, refinances they're still a thing. They're less of a thing when we're not in like a lower rate situation than in the recent past, which is kind of what happened around COVID. Like pre-COVID, we were in the 4 or 5% range, and then we get down into like the 2 or 3% range. So basically, anybody could take advantage of that rate. But now, credit card debt is at an all-time high, and even though people are, in many cases in a mortgage that might have a rate in the 2 or 3% range, they might have really high credit card debt that's at 16 to 29%, and they might still benefit from a refinance. So I do see a lot of people like clinging to lower rates, even though it would probably be in their best interest from like a monthly expenses standpoint to consider doing a refinance. And then to answer your question about how the VA factors into that, if you are in a VA loan already, like if I buy a house on a VA loan or if I refinance into a VA loan, I then have the ability to do what's called a streamlined refinance. In the VA world, it's called an IRRL, an interest rate reduction refinance loan. And that is a refinance that I can do to take advantage of a lower rate in the future. And it's great because we don't need an appraisal to do one. So they go really quickly, and the documentation that we get from the borrower is very, very low. So it's great. Like if let's say you have a permanent change of station or something you need to buy today, that's the important part. Buy the house that's going to suit your needs. And then in the future, when and if rates are better, you're going to be easily able to take advantage of them.
That's fantastic.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is like if you do want to do some kind of debt consolidation or whatever, to do a cash out refinance, the VA loan allows for a much larger percentage of the equity in your house to be taken out than a conventional loan does.
Oh, well, that's really good too. Yeah, if they need it for a project or something like that.
Home renovations, debt consolidation, college tuition, you name it.
Ah, yeah, college tuition. So I wonder, I used to work in student finance, but I don't, subscribe to all the information about it now, but I wonder how the interest rates compare between like parent loans that are federal and the mortgage space. Like there's probably a point at which it's a better option to use the house as capital instead of the loan programs.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. And also because, a big sticking point with student loans is that they can never be discharged in a bankruptcy. So, a lot of people saddle with student loans that they have a difficulty repaying. And no matter what happens to you financially, those are always going to be there unless they get forgiven or paid off.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have a couple small loans from my master's, like my bachelor's. Luckily, I had, the family to help me with that. But the master's, but the rates are so low because they were when this is like early to mid 2000s.
Okay.
So I just haven't bothered paying them off because there's always something more important to do with that money. And it earns more than I'm charged in interest, even just investing. So, yeah.
Yeah, you want to pay off stuff with higher interest before lower interest.
Heck
anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything like you want to share about how you get involved in the community? I know that we have a connection through the community, so I'll give our co-working space and networking club a little plug. So right now I'm at Creative Locale, which is a networking or co-working and event space with private offices and, day visit rates and a networking club that we're in. And this is at Kipling and 18th. So right in Wheat Ridge. And our networking club meets every other Friday morning.
That's right.
And so anyone that's listening, check it out. Remind me of the website, creativelocale.com.
It's creativelocale.co. Let me just
.co. And there is an E on the end of locale, everyone. So if you're going to Creative Locale with an E.
Yeah, locale with an E.co.
.co, you can learn all about the space and our networking club. And so obviously, Tim, you're very involved in the community from the perspective of Creative Locale. But what else are you up to in the neighborhood?
So yeah, Creative Locale, like you mentioned, I'm the president of the networking club there. And then beyond that, I am a member of the Elks Club, the main lodge downtown. Although I don't participate nearly as much as I should. And then beyond that, so the majority of the time I spend out there, or like with our friend group is I think you might know about this. We do a wing night every Wednesday.
Oh, fun. I didn't know.
Oh yeah. So for like 14 years now, we've been going out every Wednesday night for wings, and we have this like ever evolving group chat.
Where is it? What wing place do you go to?
So we have a few. We try a lot of different places. We've tried probably a few dozen places around the Denver area, but primarily we go to CD's Wings in Westminster, King of Wings in Wheat Ridge, and actually they have a Golden location now too. And then the Wild Corgi downtown.
That's a fun name.
Wild Corgi is great. I'm going to give them a shout out on this podcast. Get the spicy corn dog.
All right. Good stuff. Well, connect me with them and we'll do a podcast interview and learn all about the spicy corn dog.
Sounds good.
Got to keep the community informed of all the important things,
Yeah, that's how I support the community. I drive around and I eat food.
There you go. Hey, same. I love it. So when you're not going to wing night or working on your business or with Creative Locale, what are you doing for fun?
So my primary fun thing, you could probably guess for those of you watching on video. Oh, wrong. This way.
Yeah.
I'm an aspiring bass player. So I started playing about 4 years ago, and that's my main outlet right now.
Nice. Fun. And I know you guys like to go to concerts.
We do. Yeah, we're big concert goers. Our main like hobbies out of the house are travel, eating, like I mentioned, and going to shows.
Hey, we're in the same boat. I have the same
right.
One of these days we'll definitely find a show to go to. So I was joking. So you and Kellie, your lovely wife, are definitely into like metal music, and
That's right.
I think there was a moment where she really connected with me when I shared, which I shared with you later, that I went to a ministry show while like 8 months pregnant.
I was thinking about that earlier. That's so funny. So
her eyes changed. Like I changed in her like perception of me at that moment.
So what's your daughter's favorite ministry album?
Well, Brynja. So she's not into it yet. Her favorite bands are Imagine Dragons and Foo Fighters.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Which, those are good. I've never seen Imagine Dragons, and I just saw they're coming in October, but I'm traveling for work. I was like, you got to be kidding me, because I haven't seen them yet. And I bet they put on a good show.
That always sucks when like somebody you haven't seen that's been on your list for a while comes to town and you check the schedule and it doesn't work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we actually do some concert travel. That's the way you can tie all three together. Food travel show is if a band that you really like doesn't stop here in Denver, because sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And then you get the trifecta.
Absolutely. Yeah. I used to travel a lot for shows before having kids. Now I'm kind of the point where we could do it together.
Yeah.
But one of my friends, she had like a fancy bag habit. She would buy these like $1,000 purses when we were young. It was like in our 20s. And she was like, God, I shouldn't be spending money on this. And I'm like, look, if it makes you happy, I'm like, I'll spend $1,000 easy to fly somewhere to go to a concert.
For sure.
And it's all said and done. She's like, okay, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. I have an easy time justifying it that way too, is that it's like, especially with shows, it's that tour, it's that show. It's like, even if they play the same set list every night, it's still a little bit different. So,
oh yeah,
you were there experiencing it with everybody.
Yep. You're on the road with the band.
I haven't done that yet. Maybe someday. Maybe after I'm
retired. It just happened to work out. So one of my favorite bands when I was young is Cruiserweight. They're like a little punk band from Austin.
Okay.
And they were on tour, and it wasn't on purpose, but it happened to be through work travel and some recreational travel. I went to like 3 of their shows in a row.
That's cool.
And I kept yelling this one song that I love, Trophy Girl, which they don't really like to play. And by the 3rd show, because these are small venues, like I see these little punk bands, the 3rd show, they're like, oh my God, she's here.
She's following us around with this one song request.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But
that's
anyway,
awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely find some shows to go to. I'm sure that'll be a good time. We'll have to take the networking club.
That'd be fun. Yeah, and I think a lot of us have some music taste overlap in the group, and there's tons of great venues in Denver. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just saw Blondie.
Oh, cool.
2 days ago. Debbie Harry can still perform, man. We sang karaoke afterward at a different venue.
Yeah.
And I like sang one song and was totally exhausted, and then I was like, man, Debbie Harry's 78, and she just put on a whole show at Elevation. That was awesome. And I couldn't even belt out like I was singing Possum Kingdom.
Oh, you're number one.
Yeah, I really put a lot of effort in, but I was exhausted after, and I was like, like Debbie Harry's more fit.
I'm always blown away by that. I'm 36, but I feel like most of the artists I listen to are probably in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And, you'll see these guys on tour, and it's like, they've played a dozen shows before tonight, and they're playing a dozen more after this. How do they do it? Like, I'm going to 12 shows a year, and I'm exhausted, and I work a desk job from my house. Like, how are they doing it?
Yeah, they have a lot more. They probably have like a professional supplement coach. People that are really keeping them healthy, because it's definitely impressive.
For sure.
And especially when they come here, because the elevation makes it so hard to sing. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Most definitely. Especially like Red Rocks, they're even getting it's like extra credit. They get another couple thousand feet there.
It's like Olympic training.
Right.
So well, how should people get in touch with you if they want to learn more, or perhaps listeners out there, if you have a friend who's a veteran and may want to explore some of the things that we talked about today, how should folks get in touch with you and refer to you?
So the easiest way to get in touch with me would be by phone. I've always got my work phone nearby. I can be reached there, 720-530-5033. And then Instagram, my handle is Loans by Tim.
Excellent. So everybody, you can also get all his contact information from the Good Neighbor Podcast website, which is gnpwestdenver.com, and refer local businesses to us to book their own podcast. And thank you so much, Tim, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Meg. I had a great time.
Excellent. All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwestdenver.com. That's gnpwestdenver.com, or call 720-295-9588.